Who needs to know your results? Who needs to know what you are doing so that they can do their jobs properly? Who is going to be unhappy if you do or fail to do something and they don't know about it? When in doubt, more information is better than less information. Make a list of everyone who needs to know what you are doing and how well you are doing it. Start with your boss. What information does your boss need from you on a regular basis? Go and ask. Write it down. Report back on a regular basis. Especially if there is bad news, be sure that you tell it first. If someone else conveys the negative information, it can easily get distorted and reflect badly on you before you even get a chance to comment. Practice a no surprises strategy. As we used to say as kids, beat the news home. Identify the people in and outside your business who need information from you to do their jobs properly, or to make good decisions. Ask them what information they need, how often, and in what form. Make sure that your staff and subordinates are kept fully informed about everything that happens that affects their jobs. Hold regular meetings, preferably every week, to review progress and keep them up to date. In times of crisis, you need to meet more often, sometimes every day, to keep people informed and stop them from wondering or worrying. Choose how to communicate. A key element of reporting effectively involves the medium that you use. People are either visual, 70%, or auditory, 30%. Visual people need to see the information written down. If they don't see it, they don't remember it, or remember it incorrectly. If you tell something to a visual person, he will ask, "Do you have that in writing?" Auditory people like to talk and hear the information. They are not as interested in reading it. If you present a written report to an auditory person, he will glance at it and ask you, "What does it say?" Start by determining if your boss is visual or auditory. Ask her how she likes to receive information, and then report accordingly. Ask your colleagues and staff members how they like to receive information, and be sure that you present your reports in a form that they can understand. Finally, set up a regular schedule for reporting, especially on important activities. Prepare an agenda for each meeting. Invite questions, and be sure that everyone understands what is going on. This approach can save you a fortune in lost time and unnecessary expense. There are 7 determinants of business success. There are 7 key factors that are relevant to every business and organization. A failure or a shortcoming in any one of these areas can lead to the collapse of the enterprise. Number 1 is productivity. Continually seek ways to increase outputs relative to inputs. Every business is subject to the laws of economics. The ultimate goal of business activity is profits, an excess of income over costs. In tough markets, the low-cost leader has a distinct advantage over its competitors. Look at Walmart. In its simplest terms, the key to higher levels of productivity from invested assets is to do more with less, to continually find ways to deliver the same quality and quantity of goods and services at lower costs. In tough times, with tight markets and aggressive competitors, your ability to cut costs can make the difference between success and failure. Here's the rule. Whatever cutbacks you would be willing to make if the survival of your business was at stake, make them immediately. Don't wait until the last minute. It might be too late. Invite ideas and suggestions. Ask everyone in your business for ideas and suggestions to reduce expenses without reducing the quality of your product or service. Delay and defer all non-essential expenditures. Lease rather than buy. Rent rather than lease. Borrow, if you can, rather than rent. Use your imagination and ingenuity to get more done at lower cost. Apply the zero-based thinking principle to every cost and activity. Ask, if we were not spending this amount in this area or doing things this way already, would we start doing it again today based on the current situation? View your business through the eyes of a turnaround specialist. If your business was on the brink of bankruptcy, what costs would you cut and how fast? Number 2, customer satisfaction. This is the key determinant of long-term business success. The purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. Profits are what you earn by creating and keeping customers in sufficient quantities and in a cost-effective way. The primary reason for business success is high sales. The primary reason for business failure is low sales. All other factors are secondary. The primary focus of a successful business must be customer satisfaction. This is the only way to ensure high sales. Everyone in the company must be focused on this goal. The key measure of customer satisfaction is repeat business. This means that the customer is so happy with his or her experience with a product or service that she or he purchased that he or she buys again and again. Repeat sales have the lowest cost and the highest profit margins of all. The ultimate question. The most important measure of customer satisfaction, according to Fred Reichhold in his book, The Ultimate Question, is the answer to the question, would you recommend us to others? The totality of the customer experience with your product, your people, and your services can be summed up in your customer's response to this question. Ask your customers to rate you on a scale of 1 to 10 on this question. According to Reichhold's research, those customers giving you a grade of 9 or 10 will represent 85% of your repeat customers and referrals. Achieving a high score on this question, would you recommend us to others, has become the number that many companies use to evaluate each person and function in the business. When they concentrate on improving this score, their sales and profits begin to increase rapidly. If you were to commission an independent company to survey your customers and ask what companies in your industries give the best customer service, how do you think your company would rank? Whatever it is, what actions could you take starting today to improve your ranking? Everything you do to increase customer satisfaction builds customer loyalty and generates repeat business. In today's marketplace, this must be a central focus of business leadership. The third determinant of business success is profitability. This is the true measure of leadership and the only way to evaluate the efficiency with which money and people are used in a business. The law of concentration says that whatever you dwell upon grows in your experience. Every person in your business should be focused on profitability all the time. Baron de Rothschild, in his Maxims for Business Success, said, "Always focus on net profits." Conduct a profit analysis on your business. List each product or service you offer and determine exactly how much net profit each of them earns per sale and in total. As it happens, because many companies aggregate the expenses of marketing, administration, accounting, and outside services into a lump figure, they don't know for sure how much actual profit they are earning on each particular product. Apply the 80-20 rule to all products and services. What are the 20% of your products and services that generate 80% of your profits? If you were forced to cut back to your most profitable products, which ones would you hold on to the tightest? Identify the 20% of your customers who purchase 80% of your products and services. Then, determine the 20% of your customers who are the most profitable for you. Often, these customer groups are not the same. What are the 20% of marketing and sales methods that generate 80% of your sales and revenues? Whatever your industry, you are in the business of buying customers. Every customer you buy has both a cost of acquisition and a cost of fulfillment. Your cost of acquisition includes all of your marketing and sales costs. What is your cost of customer acquisition? How much do you pay directly and indirectly to get a new customer? How much does it cost to keep that customer? Most companies have no idea. You succeed in business to the degree that your total costs of acquiring and satisfying a customer are lower than the amount you receive for what you sell. Based on this, what are your most profitable methods of customer acquisition? Finally, what are your most profitable business activities? What are the things that your company does that yield the highest net profit, both in the short term and in the long term? What are the most profitable things that you do personally? What are the most profitable activities of your key people? Whatever your answers to the above questions, a key responsibility of leadership is to focus and concentrate your limited resources on those areas and activities where the highest net profits are possible. The fourth key determinant of business success is quality. Achieving and maintaining high-quality standards relative to your competitors is a key to business survival. The company that has the highest quality rating is usually the most profitable company in any market. What is yours? If you were to be compared to each of your competitors, how would informed customers in your marketplace rank you? Who are you better than? Who is better than you? What can you do about it? Quality in the mind of the customer is composed of two factors: the product or service itself and the way it is sold, delivered, and serviced. The quality of a product or service is determined by how often and dependably that it does what you said it would do when you sold it. The quality of your services is determined by how well or poorly your customers are treated personally by people in your company. Because of the Hawthorne principle, the act of making quality improvements a major focus in your company triggers an unending stream of ideas to improve everything you do for and with your customers. Sometimes one great idea for improving the perception of quality that you hold in your customer's mind can enable you to sell far more in a competitive market. One improvement in your product or service can give you an edge in customer satisfaction. One improvement in the way you deal with your customers can get them coming back to you over and over again. The fifth key determinant of business success is innovation. Continually strive to develop new, better products and services, new, better ways to operate, to market and sell, and to give better customer service. Many management experts feel that innovation is the key to business success. They're probably right. With rapid increases in information, continuous breakthroughs in technology, and determined worldwide competition, your ability to innovate quickly is essential to your survival. The best definition of creativity is simply improvement. Many people who feel that they are not particularly creative generate a steady stream of improvements. The focus on the customer is indispensable. Continually ask what the customer will want tomorrow. What are his or her needs, concerns, fears, and frustrations? The biggest danger of business success is that it leads to complacency. People become satisfied and reluctant to change, to rock the boat. The major sources of innovation are the unexpected successes and the unexpected failures in your business. A product, for example, can sell far more than you anticipated, or far less. In either case, this means that something is different in your market and in your customer situation. What do you need to do to change your offerings or to expand and exploit a larger market? Fully 20% of your products and services will be obsolete within a couple of years, and maybe even faster. What are you going to replace them with? The opportunities of tomorrow will always be different from the markets of today. In Chapter 11, I will share with you some of the best techniques for creative thinking and problem solving ever discovered. The sixth key determinant of business success is organizational development. This means that you continually seek ways to get better results by reorganizing people and resources, moving them to where they can produce better results for your business. There are 3 R's that you can use regularly to ensure that your company is functioning at the highest levels of efficiency and effectiveness. The first R is restructuring. This is the process of moving people and resources to higher profit areas. Focus more of your best people and time on the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your sales and profits. The second R is re-engineering. Stand back and look at your entire work process. How could you simplify the work so that you can produce your products and satisfy your customers faster? Make a list of every job and function that is performed in the course of your business activities. Go over the list of steps and look for ways to reduce them. Perhaps you could consolidate several jobs together and make one person responsible for it rather than several. Perhaps you could expand the definition of a job and have one person be responsible for all of it rather than dividing it up. Identify the tasks you do internally that could be outsourced to a company that specializes in that area and which could probably do it faster and cheaper. Especially, how could you convert fixed assets into variable cost and lower your monthly break-even point? Finally, be prepared to eliminate certain tasks, activities, and even staff completely. There are often things you are doing today that when you began them seemed like a good idea. Now, with the passing of time, you find that they are both expensive and unnecessary. It's time to cut them back or eliminate them completely. The fourth R is reinventing. Imagine walking across the street and starting your business or career over again. What would you immediately start up again? What products or services would you immediately begin marketing and selling? What products and services would you no longer offer? What business expenses or activities would you get into again, and what would you discontinue? When you develop a reinvention way of looking at your world, you'll see many opportunities to reorganize your life and improve your ways of doing business. You will find yourself doing more and more of those things that represent the highest levels of profitability and letting the rest go. The seventh key determinant of business success is called people building. Look for ways to increase loyalty and build both the competence and self-esteem of your staff and your key people. Almost all companies say that our people are our most important asset, but only a few companies treat their employees as if they really believed it. The fact is that almost everyone in your company today is a knowledge worker. They work with their minds. They can only be measured by the results they get at their jobs, not their activities. It is how people think and feel about their companies, their jobs, their managers, and their co-workers that determine the quality and quantity of their work. These things cannot be left to chance. The average person works at 50% or less of his or her potential. This means that the greatest improvements in performance and results can come from unlocking and unleashing the latent potential of each person who reports to you. All motivation is self-motivation. The manager cannot motivate anyone. What he can do is create an environment where motivation happens naturally. This requires simultaneously putting all the known motivators in place while removing the demotivators that inhibit performance. People are motivated when they feel terrific about themselves. The measure? When people say, "This is a great place to work." The best organizations in every industry are far more productive and profitable than average organizations in the same industry. They are characterized by high-trust environments where people feel good about themselves and about what they do. The building and maintaining of a high-trust environment is one of the most important things that you can possibly do as a leader in your work, and especially in times of uncertainty. Your job as an executive is to bring out the best in your people. People perform best when they feel safe, secure, and respected by you and the people around them, and when they feel appreciated and valued. The key to motivation, enthusiasm, and a positive self-image is the individual's level of self-esteem. Self-esteem has best been defined as how much you like yourself. The more you like and respect yourself, the better you perform in every area. The more you like yourself, the more you like others, and the better you get along with them. The more you like yourself, the bigger goals you set for yourself, and the longer you persist in the pursuit of those goals. The more you like yourself, the higher standards you set for yourself, and the better work you do. Self-esteem is the core emotion that companies must reinforce and encourage to create a great place to work. The opposites of self-esteem are fear, insecurity, feelings of inferiority, negativity, and poor human relations. Fear and doubt have always been the greatest enemies of human happiness and performance. Fear of any kind undermines and even paralyzes performance. Fear depresses your personality and undermines your effectiveness. The fear of failure is the greatest single obstacle to success in adult life. The fear of failure leads to self-doubt, and self-doubt causes people to hold back, to hesitate, to sell themselves short. The second major cluster of fears revolves around the fear of rejection. This is the fear of disapproval, ridicule, embarrassment, and especially the fear of criticism. These fears lie just below the surface of the personality of the average person, just waiting to be triggered by something that someone, especially the boss, says or implies. These fears are easily triggered by a look, a glance, or a negative response to a situation at work. So what is the key to creating a high-trust environment? It is to drive out fear. Resolve to eliminate criticism of all kinds from your vocabulary. Assume the best of intentions on the part of others. Allow honest mistakes. Don't react or overreact when things do not go as you expected. Tell people how good they are. Build and reinforce self-esteem on every occasion. Build positive self-images in people with regular recognition, rewards, and approval. Take time to express compassion, concern, and caring for each person. Apologize early and often. If you say or do something that triggers the fears of failure or rejection in another, go and say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." Take back the destructive criticism. Dedicate yourself to creating an environment where people feel terrific about themselves. Drive out fear. Create a high-trust environment so that everybody who works with you says, "This is a great place to work." When you practice the 21 management techniques and strategies contained in this chapter, you will soon get results out of all proportion to your efforts. Just one idea, if it's the right idea at the right time, can change your business. Chapter 7. Hire and Keep the Best People. Formal education will make you a living, says Jim Rohn. Self-education will make you a fortune. Your ability to hire and keep the best people will determine your success as a leader more than any other single factor. In Jim Collins' best-selling book, Good to Great, he writes that the key to building a great company is to get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and then get the right people in the right seats on the bus. In Larry Bossidy's best-selling book, Execute, he writes that the key to business success is to find people who can execute and who can get the job done quickly and well. The skill of hiring and keeping good people is not genetic. No one is born with it. It's a skill like any other business skill that can be learned with practice. By practicing the ideas in this chapter, you can dramatically increase your effectiveness in finding and keeping the best people for your business. The critical constraint. The critical constraint on the growth and success of your business, or any business, is your ability to attract and keep excellent people who can help you to build the business. Everything else can be acquired somewhere. You can get all the capital, real estate, furniture, fixtures, manufacturing, distribution equipment, packaging, and marketing materials you need. But what makes everything work is the people behind them, and there has never been such an extreme shortage of quality people as we are experiencing today. Employers today have to make a major mental paradigm shift. We have to direct our attention to hiring and keeping good people and focus on that as a major responsibility of management. It may be the most important thing we learn to do. Select the right people. The selection process is the key to your success and to the success of your company. Nothing is more important to your future than your ability to select the right people to work with you to make that future a reality. The first law of management is selection. 95% of the success of any enterprise is determined by the people that you choose to work in that enterprise. Unfortunately, very few managers have been thoroughly trained in the process of personnel selection. As a result, much of selection is done on the basis of intuition, gut feelings, and seat-of-the-pants reasoning. But this is not for you. The rule is that if you select in haste, you will repent at leisure. Many of your worst problems in business come from having hired a person too quickly, and then you're having to wrestle with the decision and deal with all the problems that came along with it, and with him or her. Hire slow and fire fast. One of the rules for good hiring is this: hire slowly and then fire quickly. The very best time to fire a person is the first time it crosses your mind. If you have made a poor selection decision, don't compound the decision by keeping the wrong person in place. Have the courage and common sense to admit that you have made a mistake, correct the mistake, and get on with your business. Hiring is an art. It cannot be rushed. You must take your time in hiring decisions. All people decisions require a good deal of thought and reflection before you make them. Fast hiring decisions usually turn out to be wrong hiring decisions. A manager once told me that he had a simple rule for hiring anyone. Once he had decided upon the candidate, he waited for 30 days before he made the final offer. He found that the very act of delaying a hiring decision made it a vastly better decision when he finally came around to it. In management, your natural tendency is to hire a person as a solution to a problem, to fill a hole in the lineup, or to do a job that suddenly needs to be done. This is like grabbing a bucket of water and throwing it on a fire. Sometimes, if you're not careful, the bucket turns out to be full of gasoline, and the situation you created can be worse than the situation you are trying to correct. Ask yourself honestly, have you ever hired a person with little thought? How often have you had problems as a result? There's nothing wrong with making a mistake as long as we learn from the mistake and don't repeat it. Poor selection is very expensive. First of all, there is your lost time, the time that you spent interviewing, hiring, and training the person to get them up to speed. Then there is your lost money, the cost of the salary and training expenses of the person who eventually doesn't work out. Finally, there is your lost productivity, while you are busy finding a replacement for the person that you shouldn't have hired in the first place. The rule is that it costs about 3 times a person's annual salary to hire the wrong person and to have to replace them. If you hire a person for $50,000 a year and the person does not work out, the overall cost to you and the company will be about $150,000. It therefore behooves you to think carefully before you bring a new person on board. Sometimes the best hiring decision you ever make is the one you decide not to make in the first place. Think through the job. Before you begin your search for new employees, take time to think through the job carefully. Use the 10-90 rule that I mentioned earlier. This rule says the first 10% of time that you spend thinking and planning will save you 90% of the time and effort required to make the right decision and get the right result in the long run. Think through the exact output responsibilities of the job. Imagine that the job is a pipeline. What exactly comes out of the other end of the pipeline in terms of the results that the person is expected to accomplish? Think in terms of results rather than activities. Think in terms of outputs rather than inputs. Imagine that you're going to buy a specific quality and quantity of results in the marketplace. Exactly what will those results look like that you will receive in exchange for the money that you are willing in the form of salary to pay? Think on paper. Think through what the person is expected to accomplish day in and day out. Describe a typical workday and work week from morning to night. The clearer you are about the job that is to be done, the easier it will be for you to find the best candidate for the job. Once you've determined the results required, identify the exact skills that the ideal candidate will require in order to get those results. Many companies believe in hiring for personality and attitude and then teaching the specific skills. But you should demand a certain demonstrated skill level at the very beginning if you want to hire the best people. You should then identify the personal attributes or qualities that the ideal candidate will have. Especially you will want someone who is honest, positive, hardworking, energetic, focused, and open-minded. Write these qualities down and organize them in terms of their importance to you and to the job. Finally, be sure that a single person can do the job you are hiring for. Be sure that you are not creating an impossible job and looking for a miracle worker. Sometimes with rapid change, the job has grown so complex that you need 2 different people with 2 different sets of skills and attributes to do it properly. The mark of the superior executive is thoughtfulness. The very best managers and executives are far more thoughtful when it comes to people decisions than are average managers. The more time you spend thinking and reflecting on the person and the job before you hire, the better decision you will make. Write out the job description. It's absolutely amazing how many people advertise or seek new job candidates without ever taking a few minutes to sit down and write out a clear description of the person that you want. There's something amazing that happens between your head and your hand. When you make a list of all the qualities that the ideal job candidate will have, you will be absolutely amazed at the incredible clarity that you develop on paper. What I do is to make a list of everything that I can possibly think of that the perfect person would have, if I could find him or her. I then circulate this list to other people who will be working with the candidate. We review and massage this list and then organize it by priority. In a few minutes, we have a terrific description of the person. We can then write a description of the job. Start the job description by standing back and thinking what the individual will be doing from the time he or she starts in the morning until the time he or she finishes in the evening. What will the candidate be expected to do? Think of the job as a production process and identify each step in the production process as a task that must be completed to a minimum standard of performance. Write it down. List every function and responsibility that the individual will have in the job, from coming in the morning, checking messages and responding to telephone calls and emails, all the way through to measuring and reporting on his or her progress to his or her superior. Don't leave anything out. Once you have a description of the ideal candidate and a clear description of everything that the candidate will be expected to do, set priorities on both lists. Divide the lists into musts and wants. Some qualities and output responsibilities will be absolutely essential to the successful completion of the job. Some are quite desirable, but they are not absolutely essential. For example, when I make out this list of wants and musts, I always write down that the ideal person lives fairly close to our offices. But this is a preference, not an absolute requirement. On the other hand, the skill or proven ability to get the most important part of the job done well is at the top of the list. The more clear you are about the priorities of the job and the person in advance, the better you can interview and the better hiring decision you will make. Think through the people with whom the person will be working. Everyone has to fit into a team. It's absolutely essential that whoever you hire will get along with and be accepted by the other people. A mistake in this area alone can be fatal to the hiring process. Determine what kind of attitude or personality you want the person to have. In my experience, a positive, optimistic, and open-minded attitude is best. Don't hire negative or unhappy people, no matter how good they might be technically. They become your major sources of problems in the workplace. Finally, take all of this information and write out a clear, detailed description of the ideal candidate for the position. Write it out exactly as if you're going to be placing this description as an ad in a major publication and it was going to cost you several $1,000s for a single insertion. With this written description, you are now ready to cast your net and begin finding the right person for the job. Now, how do you find suitable candidates? It used to be that we would start looking for a person when we had an opening or a need for that person. Today, however, you must be in a permanent hiring mode. You must be scanning your world like a radar scans the horizon, continually looking for more and better people to work for you. It is a never-ending job, the success of which will largely determine your success as an executive. An important part of the selection process is generating a sufficient number of suitable candidates from which to choose. There are several places for you to find people. The first place is within your own company, within your own staff and personnel department. Conduct an internal search for the kind of person you are looking for. Circulate the written job description to everybody in your company and tell everybody that you are looking for someone who fits this description. Offer the job to your existing staff first if you possibly can. Many companies today are offering hiring bonuses to their staff if they can find a person who fits a particular description. The average person knows about 300 other people by their first names. When everyone on your staff knows that you are looking for a particular type of person, they will all be alert to finding that kind of person in the course of their activities. If you offer them a bonus for sending someone in your direction, you will have every single staff member out there working for you and directing people toward you. Another great source is your personal contacts. Fully 85% of new people come through references and referrals from others. Once you have a written job description, get in touch with everyone you know who might run across the kind of person you are seeking. Tell them what you're looking for. Send them the job description that you've written out and ask them to send anyone to you who they feel might fit that description. Cast a wide net. Tell your customers, your bankers, your suppliers, your friends, your contacts, your acquaintances, and even people that you deal with on an occasional basis, such as your lawyers, accountants, business associates, and so on. Cast your net as widely as possible. An excellent source of high-quality people is executive recruiters and placement agencies. Depending on the size of your business, executive recruiters and placement agencies can save you an enormous amount of time, money, and effort in sorting through and finding the kind of people you need to help you grow your business. The key to using these agencies is for you to have a very clear written idea of the kind of person you want. Make it easy for them to do their search and to identify the people within their data banks that would be suitable for the job that you are offering. Newspaper ads are another source of candidates, but usually the least effective source. The Sunday job section is best. The key is to be specific in the job description in the ad, and then to pre-screen people who phone from the ad based on the requirements that you've written down. Fully 85% of people who respond to newspaper ads are not suitable, and they can be sorted out on the telephone at the initial contact. Perhaps the most important and fastest growing source of job candidates is the Internet. 1/8 of new jobs are already being filled from Internet advertising today, up from just 0 a few years ago. The Internet sites devoted to helping companies find good people are fast, efficient, inexpensive, and reach all over the country. Craigslist, Monster.com, and CareerTrack are excellent sites. This should be a vital part of your hiring activities. Finding appropriate candidates is time-consuming. It often requires several weeks or months. It is an activity that you should get started on immediately and preferably well in advance of when the person will be essential. Interview effectively. Most executives have never been taught how to interview people properly for a position. Fortunately, the process is quite simple as long as you can discipline yourself to learn it and then to follow it each time. You start by writing out a logical sequence for the interview. You can even make a brief checklist that you review before you speak to a job candidate for the first time. Start by putting the candidate at ease and helping him or her to relax. Tell him or her that this is just an exploratory interview and that your mutual goal is to see if what you are offering and what the candidate is looking for is the same thing. Don't start selling yet. Here's another rule. Don't start selling until you have decided to buy. In other words, resist the temptation to convince the candidate that this is a great job, a great company, before you have concluded that this is the kind of person that you want in the first place. The key to good interviewing is for you to ask good questions and then listen carefully and patiently to the answers. The more a person talks, the better feeling you will get about this person. But you don't learn anything when you are talking about the company and the job. Use the SWAN formula. There's a simple formula that you can use in an interview. It is called the SWAN formula, and it's based on the letters SWAN. These stand for what you are looking for: smart, work hard, ambitious, and nice. Smart, or intelligence, will account for fully 72% of the person's ability to do the job. An ambitious candidate is a person who wants to move ahead rapidly in their career and who sees this job as an opportunity or a springboard to something even better if he does it well. You want people who are willing to work hard, above and beyond normal working hours whenever it is required. And finally, always look for and hire nice people. A pleasant personality is perhaps as important as anything else you can find in a good job candidate. Here are some things to look for. First of all, look for achievement or result orientation. When you ask questions and listen, look for examples in the person's background where he or she really enjoyed succeeding and getting results at a job. Another thing to watch for is intelligent questions. One of the hallmarks of intelligence is curiosity. One of the demonstrations of curiosity is that a good candidate will have a series of questions, usually written out, that he or she will want to ask about you, the company, the job, the opportunities for the future, and so on. Especially, look for a sense of urgency. A good question you can ask is, if we were to offer you this job, how soon would you be ready to start? The right candidate will want to start as soon as possible. The wrong candidate will have all kinds of reasons for procrastinating or delaying leaving their current employer. Remember, fast personnel decisions are almost invariably wrong personnel decisions. Go slowly, be patient, ask good questions, and listen carefully to the answers. Take notes when the person talks. Ask questions that revolve around the highest priority items on your job description. Ask the candidate questions about how he or she feels that he or she would perform in those areas. Only when you've reached the conclusion that this is the kind of person that you would like should you tell him or her more details about the company and the job. Only start selling when you've decided to buy. Practice the law of three. This is a powerful technique that can dramatically improve your ability to select the right people for you for the long term. Using the law of three in personnel selection, you interview at least 3 candidates for any position. You interview the candidate that you like the most at least 3 times. You interview the candidate that you like the most in at least 3 different locations. Hiring decisions that you make by intuition can often turn out to be unsuccessful. But when you interview 3 different candidates for the job, you get a better feeling for which of the candidates would be best. You get a better sense for what is available and for exactly what it is you want. If you only speak to one person, your range of possibilities is too limited. Never offer the person the job at the first interview. If you like him or her, invite him or her back for a second and third interview. Remember, the best a candidate will ever appear will be at the first interview. At the second interview, you will see and experience a different person. At the third interview, the person may be so completely different that you will wonder what you were thinking when you interviewed him or her the first time. Finally, interview the person in at least 3 different locations. Interview him once in your office, once down the hall or in a separate room, and perhaps once across the street at a coffee shop. A person who looks good in your office may look average down the hall and completely mediocre when you take them out for coffee or lunch. Remember, the slower you go, the better decisions you will make. Another application of the law of three is to have the candidate interviewed by at least 3 other potential coworkers. Don't rely on your own judgment in hiring someone. A person that you like may initially turn out to be completely unacceptable when other people have a chance to express their opinions. In my company, everyone gets a chance to interview a new candidate, and then everyone votes on that candidate before he or she receives a job offer. It's absolutely amazing what the candidate will reveal when he speaks to a potential coworker as opposed to a potential boss. Hewlett-Packard Corporation has a 7-interview method involving 4 different managers who interview the candidate that they use before hiring anyone. Their choices turn out to be amongst the best in the industry, and their turnover rate tends to be one of the lowest in the industry as well. Some companies will interview a candidate as many as 25 times before making a decision. At the very least, you should interview the candidate you like at least 3 times before you make your decision. Probe past performance. You may be hiring people right out of school. In that case, you interview based on the sort of things that they have done at school and during the summer to find out what kind of people they really are. In all other cases, past performance in the workplace is the very best indicator of what the candidate is likely to do in the job that you are offering. The rule is that you should hire based on proven past performance only. This is the only real indicator and proof of what the person is likely to do once they start working for you. Ask questions about his or her previous successes. Especially ask about his or her greatest achievement in the world of work. Probe this answer and ask why he or she feels so good about that accomplishment. What did he or she learn? What did he or she learn that he or she could apply to this job or to a future job? Listen carefully to the answers. Ask what kind of experiences he or she has had that qualifies him or her for this particular job that you are offering. Listen carefully to the answers and probe by asking the question, "How do you mean?" over and over. Unless you are a large firm with lots of time and lots of money, do not expect to hire and place an inexperienced person in a key job. This is a high-risk policy. You are always better off looking for previous experience for an important job. Check resumes and references carefully. Remember, proper selection is 95% of building a great team. Checking resumes and references is an essential part of the hiring process. When you read a resume, look for simplicity, honesty, and a focus on accomplishments and achievements rather than a description of activities and length of time in the job. What you are looking for is called transferability of results. You are looking for someone who has already successfully done for someone else what you are hiring the new person to do for you. Be careful about reference letters. They are often useless or deceptive. Sometimes they are given by a previous employer in exchange for the employee going in peace rather than making a fuss when they've been separated from the company. The way you check references is simple. Phone the person on the reference letter personally. Explain that you are interviewing the candidate for a position. Ask about his or her strengths and accomplishments at the job. Ask about any weaknesses that the candidate might have. Promise confidentiality. Promise that you will not tell anyone about these answers. Many companies today will not tell anything about a previous employee for fear of being sued. In this case, you can always ask this question. Would you hire this person back again today if he applied to you for a job? All this requires is a simple yes or no and is not an actionable response. If he would not hire the person back, you have a red flag on the candidate. Proceed with caution. The last words you use when checking a reference are these. Thank you very much for your time. Before I go, is there anything else that I should know about this person? And then remain completely silent and wait. Very often a final casual remark or insight that the person will give you just before hanging up will be invaluable in helping you make a decision. Before you make the final hiring decision, there are some key things that you can do. First of all, consider the corporate climate and the people mix in your company. This plays a vital part in the new employee's future performance. Will he or she fit into your corporate culture and climate? Will he or she be happy in your business? This is very important. Use the family member method of selection. Ask yourself, would I feel comfortable inviting this person to my home to have dinner with my family on Sunday night? This is a great question because it gives you a very good inner sense of whether or not this person will fit with you and others. Would you put your son or daughter to work with this person or under this person? If not, why not? When you think of assigning one of your children to work under this person, you get a much clearer picture of whether or not this person is appropriate for your business for the long term. Finally, do you genuinely like this person? You should only hire people who you like and enjoy. Would you be comfortable working with this person for the next 20 years? Remember, long-term vision dramatically improves short-term decision-making. Review your feelings with other people who will be working with this person. Listen to them carefully, and then take some time by yourself to decide whether or not this is the right person for you. A friend of mine went through an exhaustive hiring process where he interviewed 35 candidates, many of them several times. At the end of the process, he decided not to hire any of them. After years of experience, he has learned that a bad hiring decision is worse than no hiring decision at all. Watch for the best predictor of success. Based on 30 years of research and thousands of candidates who worked for many years for large companies, the best predictor of success has been identified as self-selection. This happens when the candidate concludes that he or she really wants to work for you and your company. After you have interviewed the candidate and explained the job to him or her, encourage him or her to think about it and then get back to you. When the person gets back to you and tells you that he or she really wants the job and wants to work for you, ask, why? Why do you want to work here? Why would you want to work here rather than somewhere else? Then remain silent and give the candidate a chance to answer. Finally, ask him or her, specifically, how do you feel you could contribute to our company? Even though the job market is quite favorable today, hire as patiently and as carefully as possible. Once you have sold the candidate on wanting to work for you, you should have the candidate sell you right back on why he or she would be a good choice for you. Self-selection is the greatest predictor of loyalty and long-term commitment that has yet been discovered. Negotiate the right salary. With regard to salary, bonuses, and other forms of compensation, remember this key rule. Good people are free. Good people are free in that they contribute more in dollar value than you pay them in salary and bonuses. Every good person that you add to your payroll increases your bottom line. The profitability of your company is largely determined by your ability to attract and keep good people who contribute far more than they take out. For this reason, the amount you pay should largely be determined by the potential contribution of the other person, not some arbitrary rules in the marketplace or in your industry. The rule today is that you have to pay talented people whatever it takes to get them, based on what they could get working for someone else in another company. However, the better prepared you are for a salary negotiation, the better deal you will make. Do your homework. First, ask around to determine what this job is worth in the current market. Phone personnel or placement agencies and find out how much it would cost to hire a person with this particular level of skill. Think through and determine how much you specifically can afford to pay for someone in this position. But whatever the market is paying is the minimum that you will have to pay as well. People may not be motivated solely by money, but money is a major motivator, and people will not accept less from one company than they can get from another for the same job. If you are hiring someone away from another company, you will have to pay at least 10% more than he or she is currently receiving. 10% seems to be the point at which people will jump from one company to another. Ask the candidate. If you are unsure, ask the candidate, what do you feel this position is worth? And listen carefully to the answers. And then ask, why do you feel that way? And listen again. You can also ask, how much money do you have to make to feel comfortable at this job? Most people have two numbers in mind. There is the number that they would ideally like to make, which is often higher than they've ever made before. The other, more accurate number is the amount that they actually expect to make, the amount that they would be comfortable with. Your job is to find out the second number. If possible, start the person lower than he or she requests, but agree to increase his or her salary within 90 days if he or she does a great job. Specify that this first 90 days will be their probation or trial period. At the end of 90 days, you will sit down and review the job and determine whether or not you would both like to continue. At that point, you will discuss an increase. Finally, don't be afraid to pay for talented people. Remember, you always get what you pay for in any job market. Start them off right. Good people are too valuable and scarce today for the old sink-or-swim method. New employees, even those with extensive previous experience, require a hands-on approach to the new job. The way you start the employee will largely determine his or her performance and effectiveness in the months and years ahead. Start by explaining to the new employee the values, the vision, the mission, and the purpose of the company. Explain how and why what your company does really makes a difference for your customers and your clients. Sell the new employee on the importance and value of the job and how it fits into the role of the company in making a contribution to society. Introduce the new employee around on the first day. Familiarize him or her with the company. Many companies actually have a 1 or 2 week orientation program for new employees to cover all the things we just mentioned. At the very least, spend time with the employee at the beginning so that he or she feels welcomed into a new family. Create a buddy system for each new person. Assign another capable person to work with this person as a buddy or friend. This friend can show the new person around and answer any of his or her questions. When you start people off right, they will be far more positive, motivated, and committed to their jobs and to the company. The first day or two, the first week or two are really important in creating the proper attitudes in the mind of the new employee. If you have made the right selection, the new person will be eager, willing, and ready to get into the job and get going. At this point, you start him or her off with lots of work to do. Work overload at the beginning makes the job challenging and exciting. At the same time, provide lots of opportunity for feedback and discussion about the work. When people have a lot of opportunity to talk and ask questions about the job, they integrate themselves much more rapidly into the company. They're far more motivated and committed to doing a good job than if they are started off slowly or they get limited feedback. As soon as the person begins, you should find an opportunity to catch him or her doing something right. Meet with the person, talk to them, and give them praise and encouragement at every opportunity. People are hypersensitive during the first few days and weeks of the new job, and are most open to positive influence at this time. Make sure that these are bright, shining moments for the new employee so that he or she feels really happy about working for you and with you. Solve problems quickly. We are living in a world of incredible change and turbulence. Because people are complex, misunderstandings can and will take place all the time. Personality and performance problems can arise even with the very best and most capable of people. Often these misunderstandings and problems are not the fault of the employee at all. When a problem of any kind arises, deal with it quickly. Many problems are temporary and passing. They are caused by external events, and they blow over quickly. You should call the person into your office or go and see them immediately and deal with the difficulty, whatever it is. Resist the temptation to blame, accuse, or pass judgment. Instead, be empathetic and supportive. Rather than accusing or demanding, ask questions to get clarity about what has happened. Listen patiently to the answers. Remember, many employment problems are the fault of the company or the supervisor. The fact is that nobody does something that they deliberately feel to be wrong. Everybody wants to do a good job and be accepted by others. There are two key problems that cause most difficulties in the workplace. They are lack of direction and lack of feedback. With lack of direction, the person is not exactly clear about what it is that you want and expect. In the absence of clear, specific instructions with standards of performance, the individual will do the very best that he or she possibly can with his or her limited knowledge and experience. The biggest single demotivator in the world of work is described as not knowing what's expected. On the other hand, the biggest single motivator in the world of work is being told exactly what is expected. Lack of feedback on performance is another major source of difficulties. People need to know on a regular basis how well they are doing. If they are making a mistake, they need this pointed out to them. If they're doing it right, they need to have this reaffirmed and recognized. Fully 95% of problems at work are caused by miscommunication or lack of communication of some kind. The superior executive always assumes that it is he or she who is at fault when an employee fails to perform to an expected standard. When you start from that point of view, you will solve most of your performance problems quickly and easily. Improve performance professionally. Job descriptions and job requirements are changing so rapidly that you must be continually redefining them for each employee. Here are 5 simple steps that you can use on a regular basis to improve the performance of every person who reports to you. First, sit down and explain clearly what the employee is expected to do. Describe the results that you want from the job. Make the results clear and objective. If it is important enough, write it out so that the employee can read it and take it away with him or her. Second, set measurable standards of performance for the job you want done. Put numbers on everything. Put financial measures on every single output responsibility if possible. One of the great rules in management is, what gets measured gets done. Third, never assume that the employee completely understands what you are saying. When you've delegated an assignment, ask the employee to repeat it back to you in his or her own words. Never meet with a staff member to give an assignment without insisting that the staff member have a pad of paper on which he or she writes it down as you speak. In fully 50% of cases, when the employee reads back what you have just said, he or she will have misunderstood your instructions. This is the time to catch the error, not later. Give regular feedback. Fourth, give regular feedback on performance. This tells people quickly what they are doing well and what they can change or improve. For people to do their very best, they need regular feedback to tell them that they are on track or off track. They need to know when they are doing well and when they can do better. And the newer a person is at the job, the more and regular feedback they require in order to do the job well. Fifth, inspect what you expect. Delegation is not abdication. When you delegate a job, you assign responsibility, but you're still accountable. If the job is important, inspect the job and progress toward the goal on a regular basis. Not only does this impress upon the employee the importance of the job, but it gives you an opportunity to get regular feedback and catch mistakes early in the process where the cost can be considerably less than later on. People love the feeling of doing their job and doing it well. They love the feeling of success and contribution. Especially, people love to get positive feedback and recognition for having done a good job. All this is possible for you when you keep focused on improving employee performance. No matter what happens, always assume that the other person is doing the very best they can with what they have. When difficulties arise in an employee's work or in a relationship in the office, always assume the best of intentions. Always assume that people mean well. Resist the temptation to become angry or impatient.